So this is the Hairtail Rig setup which I use for my kayak, and it works for me. So I'll just show you what the finished product looks like right now. So I've got two trebles using wire connected to a snap swivel which can be removed like this. And that's connected to a sinker, about a number 3 or 4 ounce sinker with a split shot, connected to another piece of wire that's connected to a flashing light, which is, this is all wire as well, and that's about 1 meter long. And what's on the end of that is just another swivel, and that attaches to your main line. What you need obviously is a sinker, 2 trebles, I think the number 6, snap swivel, split shot, 3 swivels, flashing light, some cotton elastic. I'll show you later on what's that used for, some flexible multi-strand wire. For this one I'm using is 20 pound. Yeah, so you only need a couple meters of this stuff, and they usually come with crimps inside as well. Some crimping pliers, split ring pliers and cutters. Alright, let's get started. The first thing I'll do is I'll measure out approximately 1 meter of wire and cut that. To secure it onto the swivel, I basically fold this together, pass it through the eye and over so it loops over, and I pull that tight like that. And on this end, I'll pull it really tight. So then what's actually securing is the knot. Now, we will use the crimp sleeves to secure it, but essentially we're relying on the knot to hold it fast and not the actual crimp. Just personal preference really. I prefer not to rely on the crimp to provide the security tensioning. I prefer this knot to be supporting that instead. So you could probably tie half hitches on that, but I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to put a crimp on that and squish it down, and all that crimp is going to do is just make it nice and tidy so it doesn't flap around and come loose. Crimp that way, and I usually flip it over and crimp it again. Now it's important to note that you actually don't want to crimp the ends. You want to let it flare out. Otherwise, if you crimp the ends, that could bite into the actual wire. Trim the tagging off. And then we'll pass the light. So with this light I'm using, it's in line with the actual wire itself, and I'll talk a bit later about the various different lights that are available to be used and some of the things I've found over the time that works for me. All right, take these caps off. Pass them through the wire. And then make sure you pass the sleeve as well, otherwise when you tie it to the swivel you won't have anything to crimp on. Squish that a bit, pass it through the eye of the swivel and over. Cue that down and cinch it down. If you really want to pull it down on it tight, hold it with the spring and pliers and pull like that. That's very tight. And then get the sleeve, pass it through close to where that knot is and just crimp that down. Then I flip it over like that and do the same. Now remember, not to crimp the ends, right? You want that to be flared out, otherwise you'll bite into the wire. Trim the tag in, like that, and that's the start of your your main leader. So we assemble the light, put in there. I'll actually take the battery out for now. And then get the cap from the other end and secure it down like that. So this then goes to the sinker, and on the other end goes to your main line. So this wire length is about 1 meter. I'll explain later why I prefer to have this. This is not necessary, but actually I'll explain to you now. So the reason I've got like a 1 meter wire leader is because in the past I used to attach this to my main line, which is fluorocarbon. And what I found is when I was targeting hairtail, I would lose the whole rig, including the light. So I can only assume that the hairtail actually attacked the light and bit off my leader. So I lost the whole entire rig. So that's why I don't take any chances now these days. Where the light is attached to, I have a 1 meter wire leader before the fluorocarbon. Anyway, I'll continue on. That's your number 3 sinker, split shot. Attach that, then attach the light like that, and that's your main rig. Sinker, light, and that goes to your leader. So we'll make the other section now, which is where the hook is attached to the sinker. But yeah, this is the main rig. That's how I do it. All right, put that aside. Now we make the next section. So about 30 to 40 centimeters is what I use. This next section is not where the hook is attached to, but it's I'll explain later. I'll assemble it and explain it later to see why this is the way I do it. Again, swivel, loop it into the eye and over the swivel so it forms a loop. Cinch that down tight. Okay, we'll grab one of those sleeves from here. So if you do run out of sleeves, you can buy them separately by themselves. So what I've done is I've got a whole range of sizes, because they only give you so many, so you probably need to buy extra sleeves. Yeah, as I said before, you can half hitch after this and then crimp it down, but I don't think that's necessary, because if you pull on this really tight, it's not going anywhere. And the crimp is there just to make it nice and tidy. Flip it over 180. Crimp again. Trim the tag. And then we attach the snap swivel. But obviously before we do that, we have to pass the sleeve through first. Like that. All right, pass it through the eye of the snap swivel. And over. It's a bit fiddly sometimes. All right, finally got there. All right, that's snug, that's really tight and pulling. So now we secure the sleeve over the tag end. And we crimp it down. Flip it over 180 and crimp again. Probably not necessary, but that's what I do. Trim the tag in, and that's it. So this is about 30 centimeters, and this attaches to the sinker, and this end goes to the double treble hooks that I showed you earlier. So let's put that on. And that's it. And we'll make the double trebles. So for the double trebles, I use about 30 centimeters, 30 to 40 centimeters of wire. Cut that to length. So that here. Cut that off. And the first thing we do is attach the treble. So in this case, you probably want to use your split ring pliers, and some of them have the ability to lock. So I'm just going to lock it here, and that holds it tight, makes it easy to handle. Actually, before I do that, let's loop it through. It's a little bit fiddly. Pass it over and pull it tight. That's very secure. Grab your crimp sleeve. Pass it through. Flip that 180. Crimp that down. Trim the tag end off. And then we attach the other treble. Now the distance that the second treble sits is roughly the length of the bait you're using, and in this case I'm using pillies or pilchards. So this will hook onto the head of the pilchard, and this will hook you the tail end. So whatever the size of your pillies you're using or bait you're using, that's roughly where I would set it, the distance apart. To make that, it's pretty simple. Just pass it through the eye. And then I just do an overhand knot, nothing fancy. Pull down on that. And that's it. That's not going anywhere. And for the end here, now you can use, well, let's pass the sleeve through first. There's two options here. You can just terminate a loop and do it that way, or you could put a swivel on it, which makes it a little bit easier, but you're using more materials. But I'll show you the swivel method because it is a little bit easier, but yeah, that's the downside of this rig. All right. Actually, if you don't want to use a swivel, you can use a solid ring, because what's going to happen is that's going to attach onto this snap swivel. Got the swivel. Just bend that down a bit. Make sure you've got your sleeve there in preparation for crimping, obviously. Pass that through the eye and over. Pull that down. Lock it in. Pull both ends as close as you can. And then cinch the main line down. Okay, that's tight. Okay, let's crimp that down. Flip that over. Crimp that down. Trim the tag in. Oh. So how the whole rig attaches together is this will go through the snap swivel, like so. Yeah, so the reason why I do this, I mean, there's a lot of parts to make this, but the reason I do this is because after a while, if you do catch any hairtail, this part of the trace, the wire, will get totally mangled or get cut up. The plastic covering on this will eventually be sliced through, and they'll probably eventually cut through the wire eventually. So to me, this is a consumable part. You would make several of these in your tackle box in preparation for hairtail fishing. And once these have gone through and been cut up, or your trebles have rusted out, or they're not as sharp anymore, then you'd basically unclip this. Then you throw these hook set away, and you would have made several spares as well, and then you attach the new one back onto this. So you generally wouldn't replace this upper portion of the rig. This will not be replaced, but this definitely will be replaced because of just how sharp their teeth are. And I'll show you a picture soon of how I attach the pulley onto this double treble rig. The head attaches to this just behind the head. That hooks into the towel. Then you use some of this elastic cotton and wrap it around the hook and the pulley, so that holds it together. And that's basically what I use. I haven't really seen other people's hairtail rig. This is what I use. It works for me, so make what you think of it. But yeah, if you need to modify this rig to suit your fishing style, go for it. But this is what I use. And yeah, it's just so one last look at the rig. Double trebles, wire, snap swivel, another section of wire, because I want to make sure I keep this the hooks well away from the lights. I just prefer it that way, and also away from the sinker as well. And then the sinker, then your light, and then the top of the rig, which is just another swivel which attaches to your main line. Now, I mentioned at the start of the video the various lights you can use. So I actually prefer to use these lights which are inline, because what I've found is that the other lights that I have tend to tangle a lot with the rig, and just not as nice, and I don't like it when it fouls up. So I'll show you those lights. So you could instead use something like this, which has got a snap swivel to that, and you just screw it in to activate it, and then you can secure it on like this, There we go, like that. Yeah, so what I found is that depending on the current or the way you cast it, this tends to tangle up and foul up a lot. So I prefer not to use it. You can still use it. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. It still works. Even during the day, I still would use a light. And that's just one of the style of lights you can use. Another one you can use also is this one here, which is similar to the previous one. This one is supposedly sealed, and when it comes in contact with water, it starts blinking. I've used this in the past, and again, it tangles a bit and fouls up the light. And I found this actually to be a bit unreliable. After several uses, water gets in and basically stops working. Another light that you could use is this one here, which is not a bad idea. It just clips in like that. Obviously the battery goes in here like that. I'll plug it in now like that. This is not a bad solution, and just clips in to your main line. But once again, because it sticks out a bit, I find that it does tangle a little bit sometimes, depending on, you know, how you cast and the current. Like that. Yeah, so that's it. That's some of the lights you can use, and that's adjustable obviously. But my preference is still to use the light which is in line. This one here. Let's put the battery in that. And that's it. That's your Hairtail Rig. So once again, you'll have to make spare double hook rigs, because this will get totally shredded up with the hairtail teeth. And yeah, I guess that's why I put a snap swivel here, so I can easily swap them out. Yeah, I forgot to mention just a small tip. When you're storing these hooks, I prefer to secure them in some foam. So it's much easier to handle and transport that way. And with the rig itself, I just get some of these foam thingos. I don't know what they're called. I cut some slits in them. Then I get this rig and wrap it around the foam. Just makes it easy and nice and tidy. Like that. And I just get a rubber band. And secure it tight. And that's how well, this is actually what I use a lot to hold all my other rigs when in preparation for fishing, whether it's for hairtail or bottom bashing or any light bait rig. And the slits are there so that if you don't have rubber bands, you can always pass it through and it holds it tight. Anyway, that's a small tip. Hope it helps.